Okay, good evening. The Design Review Board No.1 public meeting of February 4th, 2009 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourself and put on vibrate, your cell phones on vibrate and or on silent. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by calling our Design Review Board hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Board Member Aliano.
Here.
Board Member Insua called and said he was running late. Board Member Palmer. Here. Board Member Simonian is also arriving shortly, and Chairman Yu.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on January 28, 2010. On tonight's agenda, we actually have the election of the chairperson. This is typically done in January. However, now February, we would like to do so. However, because we have two board members that are not present at this point in time, perhaps we can move that item to the end of the agenda.
That sounds good.
That's all right with the board. All right. Oral communications. There are no speaker cards for oral communications.
I don't either. I don't have any
Chairman
cards.
Yu. Which brings us to the review calendar. There are no current staff announcements, no items under the consent calendar. So we go directly to the Design Review Board case agenda, and I'll turn the meeting over to Chairman Yu.
Thank you. Welcome to Design Review Board 1. We have three cases to look at today. We'll move right along to the first one. 1 PDR 2009-062-A 3811 El Moreno Street. It's all yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Design Review Board. The next case item before you is, again, case number 1-PDR-2009-062-8, located at 3811 El Moreno Street. The applicant is Hamlet Zarabians. The project proposal is to construct a 428 square foot second story and a 500 square foot addition to the first floor of a 1,432 square foot single family dwelling on a 6,190 square foot lot. The total proposed habitable floor area will be 2,332 square feet. The existing residence, again, was built in 1962 for a total square footage of 1,432. On to staff's analysis of the site planning for the proposed project. The proposed site plan for the new two-story house is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and appears appropriate for the site. The addition is well situated and provides adequate space to the rear backyard. The proposal also provides reconfiguration of the garage with a new driveway approach that works better with the proposed site plan. Although the garage door is oriented towards the street and is not uncommon in this area, the design guidelines suggest keeping the existing configuration. Overall, the proposed structure fits well on site within the neighborhood. On to staff's comments with regards to mass and scale. The proposed addition is appropriately designed in terms of articulation and modulation in different planes. As proposed, the mass and scale of this expanded residence is minimal and is appropriate to the existing neighborhood. However, staff believes that the second story should be set back a minimum of 5 feet to further minimize the impact on the street level. On to comments regarding detailing or architectural design. The proposed design is comprised of good quality materials, as noted here on the material board. The proposal fits well with the surrounding neighborhood as it pertains to architectural detail. Staff's recommendation is as follows. Staff recommends approval with one condition. That condition is to step back the second floor a minimum of 5 to 10 feet to reduce the to reduce the impact on the street level. That concludes staff presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is also in the audience.
What's the required setback on that?
The required front setback is 25 feet.
What about the side?
The side setback is 4 feet.
The requirement is 4?
4-foot minimum for a building height that is under 20 feet. 20 feet and under.
20. Okay.
They're exactly 20 feet.
For the step down. Okay. Welcome.
Okay, let the record
We
show
just
that
started. He just
Board
gave his
member
report.
Simonian and board member Ivan Insua joined the DRB meeting at 5:15.
We just started. We did his report. Do we have any other questions for staff? You guys have any questions for staff?
Was it a long recap or a short recap?
It was pretty short.
So first floor and second floor addition to a home.
Correct. An existing residence. The majority of the addition will extend over the existing garage. Major detailing would be in regards to reconfiguration of the entrance to the garage facing the street as opposed to turning. Staff recommends approval with one condition, to step back the second floor an additional 5 feet, or minimum 5 feet, to minimize the impact on the front facade.
Over the garage? Are these pictures?
Yes, sir.
And here's the material report. Give you guys a couple minutes to take a look at it. Okay. I have one card for this project. Mr. Hamlet Zurabians, come on. Of course, name and address, please.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Yu and members of the board. My name is Hamlet Zorabians. I'm the project architect. My address is 3467 Ocean View Boulevard, Suite B in Glendale. Obviously, the staff has already, briefed you about the project itself. I will just address a few of the concerns to save some time. I have to generally say that the addition is in a very unique situation because the existing house is unique in a sense that the house, if you look at the pictures, if you review the pictures, you will see that the entrance to the first level of the project is almost half level above the grade. So that just presents itself a unique opportunity to not go a complete second floor above the first floor, which would have actually raised our building height, much higher than what we presented here. So we saw an opportunity there. We took it because the existing garage is about 5 to 6 feet below the entry level. So in order for us to minimize the impact as far as the height is concerned, we actually chose to add above the garage mainly to meet the program, my client's program. So what is happening is that in the front we had some pocket areas there where we could have added. So we've added in front instead of going in the back to save the backyard, obviously, that is most needed for them. So what we have done, we mainly added above the garage, existing garage, as you can see. And we've come up with a very simple roof there. I didn't think that we want to articulate even more than that and break up the roof itself. It presents itself very simple. And it's kind of reminiscent of what was existing there as far as the slopes are concerned. They're matching the slopes. The building itself didn't have any particular, style, but it was a contemporary kind of it had certain details that it would resemble, so to speak, like a mid-century modern style, in a sense, with its clear, story windows, and we kept those, items in the design. We just kind of incorporated there. As far as there is one concern that staff has raised, there were a couple of items concerning that. If I if I had to actually set back 5 feet or 10 feet, that's just going to kill my program, is because main living room that was supposed to be above the garage, it would be just minimized so small, it cannot be usable. Instead, what I would propose, because I'm always sensitive to all the comments that the planning makes, I think that could be achieved with a minimal setback, plus perhaps introducing other material as well in front. So what we have done here to address that situation, I have drawn actually the elevation, introducing some ledge stone in the bottom. So that will actually create that platform, and you will have the plastered wall above it. And I will introduce that, and I'll give it to you if I can find it here. I just did it this morning. I hope I have it with me. You know, actually I cut it and I left it on my table, but I can actually show you what I mean. And this was the stone that we were thinking of putting in underneath. And I think one of the sketches, I just try to kind of, if I may approach, and I can just give this to you. It's just a very quick sketch of what we were thinking of doing there. And I would request if, just to make sure that the stone and the plaster will not happen in the same level, we would be willing to actually set back about 24 inches, and that will actually give that break over there. And then I will wrap the stone at the entrance, and I can show you too where there is going to be, but I'm just going to wrap it with a line. And then to actually make it work on the left-hand side, where we have the planters right below the level where we have the glazing, we will introduce and match the stone the same way, and we will return it on the side as well. And on the east side, when the stone returns, it can actually die into the chimney that is projecting out. Yeah. And I can show it there.
Okay.
But that was basically my, reply to that. And that's the material that here's the material that would be.
Start with you on this one. Thank you.
Yes.
So I think sensibly we can achieve that. And there's also a uniqueness about the existing project itself. If you look at the pictures, you will see that the driveway is not in front of it. There is a raised platform in front with a hedge on top of it, which is going to be even landscaped further. So that's going to ease up actually there. And then I've also surveyed the area. There are actually existing buildings which one story, but they're 7 feet above grade. And they have a much taller roof there, and if you measure it, it's 22 feet to the ridge. But we are only requesting 20 feet height limit.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding the new approach to the driveway,
Yes.
how do you propose to make that transition when right now there's approximately 34 inches right at the street of rise immediately, and part of that wall now is into the apron? So if you've cut that back, you're going to have a very steep access.
Well, I have actually looked at the steepness of it and the slope. I think we have also included a section for your review. There was a section that we did just to show how we are not going more than 3'7" above the existing ridge. That section shows more or less what a cut which is gone, it's cut through that area there. As you're going towards east, street is going actually to a lower level. There is an existing driveway there, which we are actually depicting there on the side. We are planning to use the same thing, but when we are shaving it and then going, we are going to be removing that small wall over there, and it just makes it there. If I were to go straight from the garage down to the street, I would have had 15% slope. But on the top, we have about 18 inches less level difference. So with that meandering kind of, which I really like actually, because it's very unique, when you're meandering and you're coming down, it's going to give you something about 10%, I would say. Yeah, without the transition, because 10% you would not need the transition. So it will be okay, because in that case, we don't have to actually cut into the curb and introduce a new one. We close the other one. And I think it's better because that's a higher elevation to enter. And
It looks so close.
yeah, but I mean, we've done on the plan, we've shown the radius that is required, and it's making it. Besides that, actually, front landscaping that we're introducing, that's going to actually mask most of the first level area there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Um,
A little more.
The stone itself, you're going to step the top in a little bit?
No, stone, I'm going to be, the stone is
It's going
going
to wrap it, right?
Yeah, it's going to wrap, and then what I have there is a planton. We have plantons there that goes between the mullions, and we have a horizontal band over there, right at the balcony or the terrace. I'm just going to continue that planton, and then bring the stone end to the planton, underneath the planton.
So if I look at your sketch, where is that?
Yeah, the sketch was over there.
Yeah.
I wish I had that drawing with me. But I can show it to you here. Where it is.
Yeah, I'm not clear. I mean, I'm sure you're doing the right thing. I just was curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can show it over here. I actually meant to bring it so it will be clear.
Where's the pointer?
That's okay. Do we have the pointer? Or?
Where's the pointer?
The pointer is not okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. So this is basically what I was talking about. You see that there is a planton over here. That is going to turn. This is going to be all stone over here as it returns. So the stone will be in this area here as it returns, and then right from that line up, it will be the stone on the side of the stair. Okay? When it turns, we are creating this as a platform. So this is going to be all stone. This particular piece over here, which is a planton, it will continue and turn and die into the wall. So on the side of this entrance, and this will be all stone. And then on the east side, when we are returning it, obviously the stone is going to go and get into it. So that's just going to cover both corners and the
And there'll
front
be a
of the
little
wall.
ledge, right?
Yes.
Between the plaster and the stone. Okay.
And that will actually give you that break there. It will be a different texture. And the stone will be picking up the colors from different variety of things. I mean, we looked at this particular stone. Was very nice. It was contemporary. At the same time, it had colors of light gray and beige, and some sort of darker cream that will pick up, your plantons, which are actually wood color, darker brown. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Zarabians.
Yes.
Oh.
Sure.
I can't determine, is this material?
That's just ground cover.
It's not
It'll be
labeled, that's why I'm...
Yeah, it's it should have label. Yeah, it's going to be ground cover. It's like it's lawn actually. It'll be grass.
Okay. That's why I just couldn't.
Yeah, it was grass inserts in between the trees and the shrubs.
Mr. Zarabians, that would be required to be drought tolerant, and most lawn does not comply with that requirement.
Okay. Well, we can then use a ground cover that will meet that requirement. Not sort of a low ground cover.
Okay, perhaps the board would like to add a condition to that effect when the time comes.
I think we can make this, just specify what it is.
Yeah, because you want some sort of a lawn area for the children to play. I mean, they're not going to go into cactuses and start playing around. But there are certain ground covers that are low, and that's what we could use perhaps.
Okay.
Mr. Zarabians, I have a quick question about the driveway. Do you have a ramp profile somewhere? I mean, is the slope going to be more than 6.5%?
Well, over here, the level to the garage is almost, I would say, about 30 inches difference from here to there. If I would bring the driveway over here, then I would go exceed 6.5%.
Okay, but where it is located, are you going to have a slope that exceeds 6.5%?
I have to see. I don't know.
Okay, if you do, you will have to have a transition.
Yeah, and then we'll make the transition.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I looked at the transition. We can actually make that transition. When we were going over here, clearly it would have been, with the transition, 15%.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
that's it. Thank you. I have no other cards for this project. Is there anyone else here to speak on this project? No? Okay, thank you. Let's close it up and we'll discuss. Gio, would you like to get us started, please?
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Giuliano.
I think I agree with the staff. I think this is definitely a project that deserves approval. It's very nicely done. It's sensitive to the existing house. And as far as the second story being set back, I think the architect came up with a pretty good solution to kind of break up the mass a little bit. So I'm happy with that. I think for me, the building works. It's a very modest addition, and the fact that the site actually has a sort of like it's not rectangular. It has a little bit of a skew at the front and the back. That area actually gives you a little bit more setback. So it's not like the street is exactly parallel with the house. So I think that's an advantage. It allows that piece to kind of be slightly further back. And I like what you've done with the front door, that you put it back on view rather than being tucked in. So now it's you can see the door, you can see there's more clarity, I think, in the plan. So I like what you've done with maintaining the aesthetic of the existing house, trying to extend this piece. So the language is really the same. You haven't really changed the language, but you have actually improved the house, I think, aesthetically, because of what you've done with that piece, the fenestration, all that trim work. And I think the stone, I like the stone that you picked because it has a very contemporary look. So for me, I'm assuming that the doors from the drawing, they're just raised panel doors. There's no the garage doors. They're painted raised panel. They're not embossed with any kind of wood grain or anything like that. And I didn't think you would do that. Great. Well, I'm in support of it, so I really don't have anything else to add except nice job.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer.
I agree with the comments. I think it's a very nice job. I still have a concern with the driveway because it's, even if you say you have the grade coming out, there's no way to back out and then go down frontwards, and coming out backwards, I think there's going to be a big drop-off because you're making a curve. But if you can make that work, that's fine. And I would agree there needs to be some lawn as a play area, but to have it all the way down the side and against the house, I think you can eliminate all that area. And if you do have steps, we probably don't want it to be a ground cover area. And there's a few varieties of plant material like the ferns and the palms that I would replace with excuse me, other material, and maybe use some natural grasses and maybe some arbutus trees where he has the palm trees, which would be taller and narrower, and it would go well with that architecture. I think that's my only comments. I think it's a good job, and I agree with the stone. A good choice.
Thank you.
I agree. I agree that pushing it back in this case, when we add all those things, isn't necessary. It would definitely impact on the interior living area, and it's not necessary at all. I think the ledge stone is a great addition to this house. It's part of that period homes. All in all, it's fine. I'd just say consider some interesting period lights at the main entrance. I can imagine something long and cylindrical from that period mid-century, maybe another one near the deck in the balcony area. Other than that, I like the way you did the clear story glass and all that other stuff. Great job.
Thank you. I think I agree with most of the comments. I think it's a well-done addition. The placement on the side, I think it's a good way of doing it to keep the profile down to 20 feet. It's well done. It's kind of tucked into that corner, going up to 2 stories. And I actually don't mind the 2-story there going up. I think the stone is going to help and it's going to enhance, but I didn't mind this design either. I think it has a very clean sort of vertical aspect to it where it worked well on there. But I'm willing to support the stone and sort of the suggestions that you had on there. I think we should definitely put in the comments about the driveway, taking a look at that and make sure that works properly, and also the planting suggestions that Ms. Palmer had. And beyond that, I think it's a job well done, and I'm ready to support the project. Should we read back the comments?
There's one more.
Oh.
There's one more. One more.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, Art, you get to go.
I agree with my colleagues here. It's a job well done, great design. The way the driveway actually goes down into the site, putting a second story above it is going to have a minimal effect on the neighborhood. The existing driveway has been there for many years. It goes down, currently it goes down in that shape. So I'm not as concerned about that driveway personally. I think it's been there, it's working, the owners are probably used to it. So if it works by code, I'm sure you'll make it work by going around it one way or another. Then I don't think that's an issue for me. And personally, I'm all right with this design as well, the way it's presented. Because of its location, because of its design, orientation, materials, language, and so forth, and conforming with really the existing language of the building. And so that's maybe something that we'd want to discuss if it's even necessary for him to do the stone. If you want to do the stone, great. If you want to pull it back 24 inches, great. But I agree, I'm fine the way it is. And so that's certainly up to you.
Thank you. Sorry, I skipped you.
You had one more comment. Good evening, homeowners. Just as a personal note, how refreshing it is to see people look at a home that has a period language to it and say that we can improve upon it and keep, and not just keep, but enhance the existing character of a home and think creatively. What can we do with what we have here? It's beautiful. It speaks the language of a period, and choosing someone with great skill and talent, and I think you've executed excellent. I think it's an example of looking what you got and finding ways to really expand and make it really creative. So you should be commended. Great work.
Actually, the roof, you know how it tapers off? It's something that you like to do on your designs. I thought it was something that you put in, but it's actually existing, right, on the house, or?
Tapered roof?
Yeah.
No, that language existed.
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay, let's read back the comments.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I do have a question regarding one of the comments by Ms. Palmer. Replacing the ferns and palms with I didn't get the species of
The
preferred.
palms, replace it with arbutus, A-R-B-U-T-U-S. It's an arrow tree.
Okay.
And in the ferns, they could use something that's on the drought-tolerant.
Drought-tolerant
List.
plan.
Everything else seems to comply, and then reduce the lawn.
Okay, reduce the lawn. Okay. And with regards to the driveway approach, it is a zoning code requirement
that if the slope exceeds 6%, then a transition will be required. So that'll be something that'll be caught in plan check and verified in plan check. I do have a consideration with regards to using lighting that to the architectural period. That's one. That's noted as a consideration. Is that correct? Is that okay? Okay. It's good.
I think there was some discussion or some question as to which project is being approved. Is it the one that was presented and is on the board, or is it as Mr. Zarabian's described with the addition of the stone, the setback, I believe it was 24 inches of the second floor, and the change in the detail of that sill planton, if I got all those details correct without seeing the drawing. So if we can have some clarity on that decision.
I think that's what we're approving, right? I mean, that's what we're not.
Except for the setback of 24 inches, I think it's consistent with what we were talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
But not have the 24 inches. Right. The stone will do it at the trick. That's what we
I concur with what you were saying. I think your comments were right on it.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing then, without the 24 inch.
Without the 24 inches, stone. Okay.
So let the stone itself create the change of plane, but not adding any more.
Okay. Understood. I have that.
I agree with that.
Okay. The stone as reflected in the
sketch.
detail, in that particular.
Right.
Okay, so I will need a copy of the stone.
But no setbacks.
Correct. No setbacks.
I'd like to remind Mr. Zarabian that unfortunately we can't have any cross discussion with the board. Thank you.
You forgot.
Forgot which side of the dais you're sitting on.
Was that it?
Those are the comments that I have.
Okay. Do we have any motion?
I move for approval with comments.
Okay, that'll be
Seconded.
a motion and then a second by Mr. Simone. Does the board agree with the language of the draft record of decision?
We agree, but we're not agreeing with the setback issue,
Remove that staff's condition. Okay. That's
because it's
obviously-
being resolved with the stone.
Will do. Okay. With that, this is roll call. Mr. Aliano.
Yes.
Mr. Simonian.
Yes.
Ms. Palmer.
Yes.
Mr. Insuma.
Yes.
Mr. Yu.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So we'll move on to the second project, 3055 Piedmont Avenue. And you're going to be continuing, right?
Committee of board members, the next case on tonight's agenda is case number 1-PDR 2009-049-A for 3055 Piedmont Avenue. The case planner is actually Gabor Nazarian. Unfortunately, he went home sick today, so if you'll bear with me, I'll be presenting the case for him. The applicant is Pete Valverde. This is a first-time submittal for final review. It involves the demolition of an existing approximately 700-square-foot home and detached garage, and the construction of a new two-story, approximately 1,700-square-foot two-story house, and an attached two-car garage on a lot that is only 4,546 square feet. The current zoning is R1. The particular project was reviewed by the zoning administrator for a standards variance for a substandard lot. The lot minimum size is 5,000 square feet. Obviously, this is a substandard lot, but this, the variance for the lot size was approved by the ZA on October 29, 2009, last year. You'll notice that in terms of a site plan, the previous detached garage was at the front of the lot. The single-story, single-family home was at the rear. The lot is being leveled. They are proposing a combination of two-story home, attached garage, basically in the center portion of the lot, consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. There is a slight slope up on the site, and so there was a staff suggestion made to actually push the building 5 feet back in order to lessen the impact that the project has at the street level. But otherwise, the site planning was definitely compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. In terms of mass and scale, the majority of the homes are one-story. However, based on the proposed design, a two-story is compatible. They have stepped back the second floor. They have actually, you'll notice here on the front elevation, they've also staggered the garages. So even though the orientation might be a little bit different, and the garage faces the street, which according to our design guidelines, the design guidelines typically recommend that the garage either be at the rear of the house or facing the interior side setback. In this case, they were able to come up with a solution where they staggered the garages so that they're basically two single-car garages. And again, that sort of lessens the overall impact that the two-story home has on the street and the surrounding area. Last but not least, design and detailing. There is no predominant style in this particular neighborhood. The proposed design is somewhat of an eclectic mix of a craftsman home and also a minimal traditional home. Includes plaster finish, siding along the gables, real stone river rock at the base. There is an entrance with wood columns, reminiscent again to the craftsman's home, and the garage doors have been specifically designed to complement the front door entry, again in the craftsman's period piece. Roof lines are well balanced and emphasized by the double fascia board. The proposal, relatively a modest design, highlighted by quality windows, composition shingle tile roof. Shutters on the windows are proportionally designed to match the window size and orientation of the divided lights. Again, these are not true divided lights, but they are the exterior buttons, so it would have the impression of having various visual character. Overall, staff recommends approval of the project with 2 comments or recommendations. One would be to set the house back an additional 5 feet minimum from the street to minimize its impact at the street level, and 2, to use real stone for the River Rock veneer. We received 1 letter. The letter was from the Montrose Verdugo City Spar Heights Neighborhood Association. Again, they reviewed the project. They are also in support of it with the 2 additional staff comments, but they also suggest either a 5 to 10 foot setback. Otherwise, that concludes my brief staff presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Oh, and you'll notice here, actually, that the home is set way in the back.
There's a garage in the front.
There is. There's a garage that doesn't have an actual driveway that leads to it, that was under construction at one point, that was never actually completed. So that that building permit has since expired for that garage. It was never completed, and that garage will be demolished.
So this is an earlier
This
satellite.
is
okay.
correct. An earlier satellite image.
I have a question. Staff, and you might not know the answer to this, but the staff report says it's got a composition shingle tile roof.
It is a Certainteed fiberglass tile roof based on.
So it's just the wording's incorrect.
It's their wording is incorrect.
Okay.
So, and then you'll have those here. So Board Member Palmer has the material boards, and here is the photographic survey.
Any other questions for staff?
Is there a perspective of some sort or any three-dimensional drawing?
It should be. If you don't mind giving me one moment, I'll bring that up for you. Oh, there it is. Do you mind bringing that up? And the architect Pete Volbetta is here.
Okay.
So, thank you very much. And here is his speaker card.
Great, thank you. Do you want to see the photographs? Thank you. Gives you a better idea.
It's meant to be on. It's just the way the rain. I had a little bit.
Good job. Do we have any other questions for staff?
Other questions?
Okay. Okay, we'll go to the one card that I have. Mr. Pete Lovera, if you can come up and just state your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Pete Lebeda. I'm the architect for the project. My address is 180 North Benson, Suite D, Upland, California. We've been working with planning staff for a while on this project, including that variance for a substandard lot size. And one of the latest changes we made was to push in on the sides of the second floor to reduce the massing, as you would see it from the sides elevation. So we went ahead did that at Gavork's request. And I just found out tonight about the request for additional 5 feet setback, and I suppose if the neighborhood association is also requesting that, we can agree to that requirement. If you have any questions, I'll answer them for you.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, in the rear, we're just kind of chatting about that. The columns that you have are quite different in style than the
Yeah,
front.
we can make those more craftsman.
Yeah, I think the
That's
front
no
looks pretty good. Okay. And then the fiberglass window, they're just going to get painted, right?
They come in about 3 or 4 colors. We're picking, I think, a beige color.
Okay,
Instead of
some of
vinyl,
those
it's-
you can paint. They come
Yeah, we
paint.
could actually, it would hold paint better than a vinyl window.
I'm sorry?
It would hold paint better than a vinyl window.
Oh, yeah, I
But
agree with
using the
you.
fiberglass,
Paint
because
a
it comes with more variations in colors, and we're picking a,
No,
again, a beige.
fiberglass is fine. I was just curious whether they're going to be painted on site or whether they're
No, I think we're going to order the color integral.
Great. And then the trim around the windows, the color that you want is what's shown on the drawing, right?
Right.
There's some white, some yellow trim around the yellow trim is actually at the corners, right? Yeah. I mean, the color palette is very nice. Okay. And all your windows are basically double hung, it seems
Yes,
like,
we're
right?
trying to get that style.
Painted fascia and all that. Okay. Great. Thank you.
So they are going to be double hung or single hung, because I think on this one it's showing sliders. As
No, we'll make them double hung. We'll even.
Oh, in the rear you have.
Yeah, I may have some on the rear, but there's no problem making them
I think
all
they should all
consistent.
be
We'll make them all
double-hung.
consistent, double hung.
okay. Can you talk a little bit about how you decided where the siding would go versus the stucco and how you'd separate those?
Actually, the owner, I don't think I have it here, the owner actually provided me what she wanted.
Okay.
And that had sort of the arrangement of the stucco and the siding. We basically did it, in fact, I even asked planning staff the question, should we make it one material? And they said, no, keep it different materials to, again, reduce the massing. So it was chosen really to, again, just separate the rectangles into different looking rectangles, and then with their offset to, again, reduce the mass of the building. So, and we even, I don't know if you noticed, we even have 612 roof pitch in the front rear direction and 412 in the other direction to keep the height under the height. Again, the 612 would give more breakup to all the masses again. So
I was just asking because there's some awkward areas where the siding and the stucco kind of.
I probably went too far in mixing it up differently. So I wouldn't. We could work with planning staff on making it a little more consistent if you like. That's no problem.
Okay.
That's fine.
Any other questions with applicants? Go ahead.
This window over here, that's at
Yeah,
the
that's the
corner?
one I was thinking.
That's in the stairway, I believe. That the.
Is that this window here?
I'm trying to think here.
Yeah.
And then there's this other corner to it, which...
Which is on the upper left one.
Yeah, that's the one you're pointing at. That's correct.
And in your material board, you've showed a textured stucco?
Yeah, it won't be smooth. It'll be like a dash or probably a float.
Right there.
Just a float.
Have you considered a smooth stucco?
We can. It's no problem if that's.
Because your siding is that cedar look, right? That wood textured
It'll be
horizontal
in-
siding.
I think it's a masonite siding. No, I'm sorry. It's a.
Yeah, it's not Hardy. It's another brand that use
Certainty or
weather boards.
Certainty. Okay. Yeah, it's a fiber cement because it holds up better.
You have to, anyways, for fire reasons. But
But you're asking about the pattern. though.
yeah, the pattern. You're going to go with the wood pattern that's indicated here, as opposed to the smooth. Correct. Okay.
The wood embossed or has a
Yes.
little streak.
I'm looking for the veneer texture.
And then it gets painted.
Okay. Any other questions?
Actually, this won't impact anything, but just for you, I mean, if you want to look at this, the front door, to me, seems awkward the way it swings. So, I want to put that out there. You can't.
If you
yeah.
step back, please.
Yeah. You might want to look at that just in terms of the
Sure,
flow,
we'll
how
do
you
that.
come in. Might want to swing to the left rather than right. Leave it out there so that the staff knows. Shouldn't impact the aesthetic at all on the exterior, so just the planning. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're good? No more questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's the only card that I have for this project. I guess no one else is here to speak on it. Let's close it and discuss. We'll start with you, Art, since I skipped you the last time. Okay. I'll let you go first.
This is one of those cases where you could tell someone put some thought into designing it, but then the color elevations really don't do it that much justice until we looked at your perspective. So your three-dimensional perspective that you brought up really ended up shedding a lot of light in how this building is going to go together and what your intentions are, which really helped me in understanding the different pieces to it. And it seems as though from the elevations over here, we have more of a craftsman language. That's what we're driving after. And as Mr. Aliana pointed out in the rear, this is a little more of a maybe federal style of those columns and those rear doors. So that's something I think that we could comment on and perhaps integrate some of these columns in the rear and maybe even take a look at those swinging doors. There is a sense of there's less clutter, I think, in this perspective, and that to me is successful. And I think again, this drawing is just could be misleading because of the color and the heavy palette of the color. But I believe that if we go with a smooth stucco with the siding, it'll be quite eloquent because you'll end up because you'll end up with the differentiations in the material at the same time you have the textured horizontal siding, and then the smooth stucco probably create a little more of a smoother transition. It seems as though you have trims around all the windows, which is fine, and then you've gone a step further and you've added the shutters as well. Again, you're taking the craftsman and federal and kind of mixing them, but I could even do without the shutters because I think the building speaks well for itself, because you have these situations where you have these windows that are quite close to the corners, and so you've used them as opportunities to create cornered windows, but then you can't put shutters around them. And if you can't put shutters around all of them, then it seems as though you might want to just let go of the shutters, put them aside, and really celebrate what you really have here as more of a craftsman building. As far as the style, if you start going more towards the craftsman, and then the river stone, I think, becomes more appropriate for that use. However, as staff has recommended right now, because there's such mixture of styles, then the stone is not fitting in. And so I would agree with staff in that unless you go with more of the craftsman, you might want to take a look at something different there. But again, I think this building would be much more successful as a craftsman. As far as the orientation and layout, it seems to work fine. And by looking at really the amount of articulation that the design has, I think the massing of the building has been very positively addressed, and it's been broken up quite successfully. It's a substandard lot, so it is quite small, and so the rear of it, I don't have a scale here, but you have 34-foot backyard, and it seems as though a 25-foot setback in the front. And there's been some comments by the homeowner association to push it back a few feet, but I'm not quite sure how that would really compare with what's next door. So you have a home on its right side, which looks to be about 25, but then the home on the left has been stepped back quite a bit. So that's probably where they're coming with that comment. And so that would make sense then to push it back, because you do have 34 feet, so you could maybe push it back 5 feet and still end up with 29 feet in the rear. And so those are my comments. I think it's well designed. I think you put quite a bit of effort and thought into it. And so I think with those minor adjustments, you'll have a much more successful design.
Thank you.
Just to bring to your attention, Board Member Simonian, the adjacent developments are depicted on the site plan. Mm-hmm. So you'll notice that the home to the east is at the 25-foot mark, and the home on at the very top site plan.
The West House, yeah.
You had questions regarding the front setback of the home.
That is.
Yes, the one is much further back.
I see. So the existing design is really in line with what's happening to its right side, but then its left side is stepped back another 20, 25 feet. Makes sense to step it back moderately.
Because it's the house to the west, that's the green agree, yeah. Yeah, it's further back.
Okay, Mr. Lane, if you could go next.
Yeah, very nice comments, I agree. I think generally I support the project. I think the massing is very nicely done. I like the fact that you're stepping it back from the you know, the garage massing, and second story be pulled back a bit. I do agree. I think in light of the fact that the house next door is further back, it's probably good to give that additional, slide it back a few feet like staff recommended. I agree with that, because then it starts to create a little bit more gradual transition to the house to the east, and not sort of bury the house to the west further back. So I agree with that comment, and I support it. Stylistically, I think you've done a good job. I didn't really zero in on the shutters like Mr. Simonia did, and I agree with him. If you can't have shutters in a corner, then maybe not have them, because it really doesn't need them anyways. It's kind of a craftsman house. It has a sort of craftsman look. I don't think you really need to have the shutters. I like the choice of windows. I think the fact that they have the fiberglass finish, it will have more of a nice kind of a wood look to it. The stone, the real stone, I agree with. I think it should be real stone and not the planton. So generally, I do want to stress that if you are willing, I support the idea of matching the columns in the back with the ones in the front. The ones in the front are more appropriate, I think, to the style. And there are actually a couple of inconsistencies in the drawing, so I'm assuming that we're going to go with the elevations. And the roof plan actually shows the front. And I was studying your drawing. Your roof plan shows actually, this roof here actually dies back. And then this is actually, it's impossible for that and this roof to be sharing the same eave. I think if you go by your drawing, this eave is actually further back, because this plane actually goes further back. If you look at the roof plan, because then you sort of do that on this elevation. When you look at that elevation, see what happens. This plane comes in, so this eave is not in line with this eave, which is much further forward. So I think that we have it on the elevation, the way you have it on the roof plan is correct, but the way it's shown on this elevation, I think is incorrect. It will work itself out. I just wanted to point that out, that front elevation is not really the way it's going to look. I mean, you're not going to get these two eaves to line up. And then this is going to be further back. Plus you have, I've returned, you have a hip as shown here. There's a hip right here, but there's no hip shown here. So it's a minor thing, but I think when you walk through the drawings, you can notice that. So I like what's done on the side elevation and on the roof plan. I think is what's probably going to be built, because there really is no other way to build it. If you build it the way an elevation have it, you won't be able to do it. So your roof plan is correct, and then the elevations will follow. So I'm in support of the project, I think, and I do support the setback requirement.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer?
I agree with the comments. I think it should be stepped back because the majority of the houses on that street are one story, and all of a sudden you're going to have three two-stories. And I agree that the rear columns should match the front columns. On the east elevation, I don't think there should be shutters anywhere, but on the east elevation, there's a large yellow space at the bottom of the window on the first floor. I'm not sure what that is, but it's the only, it may be just an error on the drawings, but it's the only one on any of the drawings, so I'm not sure what that is. Maybe you can address that later.
Looks like this is boxed out.
No, there's no plan.
Well, maybe we can ask the applicant. Yeah. There's about a 2 to 3 foot drop from the garage area down to the street. I don't know if there's going to be a wall or anything, but I suggest that maybe that area on the left of the driveway, if there's going to be a wall, maybe put an 18-inch real stone wall to match what's up front to take up that space. And in looking at the landscape plan, I would want to request that we have a landscape architect do a plan with more drought-tolerant plantings. And right now, there's a lot of tall shrubbery, more hedge type at the front, right at the street. And I think we need more of a transition with lower planting and transitioning up to the garage area. So I would like to see another landscape plan. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Okay. I think the narrow site, well-executed home that fits nicely on the site. So I put the word great. On the front elevation, I like the way that you have the double columns at the front entry. Great. I love the way that you were able to put the garage as separate garage, pushing one back, pushing one forward with individual doors. Great. Good use of materials in the windows. They're divided windows that have exterior mullions and stuff. Great. I love the way that the interior floor plan works terrific, albeit the door hinge should be on the left. But I like the way that the interior layout drives good exterior proportions. The use of materials, although may in some ways want to be reviewed a little bit more, I think the variety of materials is great. I like the high quality composition with shingles. I said the doors in the front garage are terrific. I like when I look at the elevation on sheet 5, the side elevation, the way that the house comes down the slope, and I think the slope really enhances this kind of house. Great. I think not important. And I think that once you finish this design, I would like to request for you to submit this design to that ever-growing book of good designs, because you've done a great job with this. It's a smaller site and worked well, so I want to make that a condition of approval to when you submit it to the city. Give an opportunity for others who would benefit from your skill and talent on a good job.
Thank you. Let's see. First of all, I had a hard time getting into the drawings because the drawings are not in very good condition. Graphically, it's all over the place. It was hard for me to get into from one architect to another. It was hard to read the drawings. Your first sheet, you got 7 different text sizes. Your north arrow is bigger than the house itself. It's just things like that. It's hard to get into the drawings when you're looking at something, and that's the quality that you see up front. Second sheet, the survey, you got little tiny numbers that, I'm trying to, figure out what the heck the grading is on this thing. Your elevations, these are much better here than they show on there. And the project itself, once I saw it here, I think the front does a very good job at breaking up the masses and using the materials. Once you turn the corner and the back, I'm not so crazy about. The side, I think where you're dividing up siding to stucco, they're sort of done in a way that, you're cutting off the window at its corner as it's turning the corner. You have the kitchen window sort of boxed in with the siding, but then there's no plane change or anything. It's just sort of decorative as you're putting it in. So all the qualities that are great about the front, they're lost on the side. And in the back, where you have sort of this big cantilever piece at the top of it, sort of like a tree house almost as you're looking into it, it doesn't work well, I think, with the design that you have. So elegantly done in the front. I think the character's lost in the back. Let's see, what else?
Your comment about the kitchen window is a good one, though. Maybe he doesn't need siding there at all and just get rid of it.
Yeah, or it's just, so it's more true to what's there instead of trying to dress it up or...
Yeah, I agree with
that. I guess that's it for now. That's all I have.
Chairman,
read back the comments.
If you could please just slightly elaborate on some of the conditions that you see of concern where the stucco and siding are not quite in the right place. That would just help us in working with the applicant.
This is, I guess, the main one. The one here about the window placement and sort of none of these being centered on anything here is a problem. I think it's just,
I think even that
having
cable.
corner windows here in, in this kind of house, I think is kind of weird too. And then even this elevation, I mean, this is all the same plane, right? Coming, or is this shifting in? No, there's nothing changing.
No, there's no change of plan. It's just.
Yeah, so I mean, to kind of bring that in and divide that and then having a third, it just...
So you would recommend that that is maybe all siding to the chimney, for example, rather than try to break that up since there's no plane change?
Right, or have some kind of relationship with the windows too on the facade. Because it's reading almost like a renovation than just a new house.
And
I agree with that. I think that sign should go all the way down because it's very visible, especially with the other house being so far back. You're going to see it a whole. See, on that elevation, the east, I'm not too worried because it's hidden by the other house.
Right.
But this view, I agree. I think that's a very good observation.
You know, we have these situations come up where they're more contemporary craftsmen, as you might say,
Right.
where they've integrated some, smooth stucco into it and so forth. But in this case, it could be a true craftsman,
Right, I don't have to go with that.
And if we're going with that spirit, and that seems the direction that the architect is going, then it would make sense to bring this siding all the way to the ground, and it would make the overall language much simpler, because then you have your typical Hardy, or if he's not using James Hardy, whatever product that he's using, trim around the windows, the siding butts up next to it, it's caulked clean, the color matches, and you get rid of the shutters, and then you have a very interesting and true building.
Yeah. So why not ask the question? I mean, is the reason? Could we bring the applicant back to that? Maybe.
Could you please come up and name and address for the record again, please?
Yeah. Pete Volbeda, 180 North Benson, Suite D, Upland, California.
Question is, I mean, is the reason why you're doing plaster and siding economic? Is it to save a little bit of money because plaster might be more straightforward, or is it aesthetic? Or
Actually, again, the client showed me something that was mixed, but when I presented the planning staff, I did ask that specific question. Is it better to go with one material or two materials? And they recommended stay with two materials to reduce the massing. And actually, the client has since that date, about 3 weeks ago, she asked me, is it better if we change to all siding? I said, well, let's wait. So we have no problem going all siding on.
I don't know. I mean, I don't mind using the two materials, but I think there should be some
I think this should come all the
way
way
of
down.
doing it.
Board
So-
member. Board member.
So it seems like there's an option for either refining the two-material approach or altering it to be all siding, and the board is okay with either one of those options?
If it's worked on with staff, yeah. I mean, be okay with that.
I think it could work if the material be all in one. Yeah, I would like to hear if you're still concerned about that. The staff is, whether
Well,
there's still a big concern. Because there's a lot of breakup, and it
Yeah.
might be easier to just make it all one.
typically what we hear from the boards, both 1 and 2, is a preference for more than one material that highlight the different building forms. And so that's what we typically do encourage our applicants to do. In this case, if you'd like to give the applicant a specific direction, or if you'd like to give the applicant a choice, we'll simply read back your preference when we read the recommended conditions.
Here's something to consider, and this is just a thought. This new products that are out there, they have wonderful shingles. So it could be a shingle siding on this top portion here, let's say, and then you have horizontal below it. And so now you could start working with that as well. And so that would be a great way to introduce almost a second type of material as far as aesthetics are concerned, but still under the same family, which is the siding, the cementitious siding. And they come pre-painted, factory painted, that lasts forever, fire retardant. So it's a great product. So that might be a way to approach it as well. And what we're trying to do is help you to speed this process along, because staff is looking for some sort of input. And so you take the input, work on it, and bring it back and work with staff. And so that's what we're trying to do at this point in time, is to come up with the most concise and direct advice that we could give to speed up the project. So, but a lot of it is really up to you which direction you want to take it.
Well, the client already asked for all siding, so looks like we'll go in that direction.
And then I could support
That's something
that.
that, yeah, they'll go over with staff.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I wouldn't mind if it was all siding. I think it would simplify it. It will simplify this.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Once you make
clumsiness in
this
that.
all siding, then you got to make that siding, which means you got to return it, and then all you're left is with this and that as plaster, you know. Sort of comes.
You know, you're looking at these drawings, and there's a fence down both sides, there's landscape down both sides, so that's going to mitigate some of that harshness. So the neighbors are going to see up above 6 feet, so you might take that into account.
Right. But does anybody agree that this elevation though is the most visible though, from an angle?
Yeah.
So I think that one should read all siding, with the chimney obviously being plaster is okay, I think. If we have a consensus, I'm okay with it. I mean, we haven't heard all the comments yet. Well, actually, we have, because you were the
Yeah, I was the
last
last one. I don't think we have any more questions, so I think if we have any more, we'll call you back up. Thank you. Close it back up. We read back all the comments and everything already, or
Would you
should
like,
we?
why
Yeah,
don't
let's
why
read
don't I
back.
do that just to make sure that I've covered? Nice. The first one was to set the house back, and I'm assuming it's 5 feet, or do you have that open-ended?
I think 5 feet is sufficient. That's a good compromise.
Otherwise, they lose their backyard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's already at 34 feet.
Okay, set the house back 5 feet from the front property line. 2, use real stone for the base rather than stone veneer. 3, redesign the rear columns to be more reflective of the Craftsman style similar to those in the front. 4, all windows shall be double-hung fiberglass windows. 5, now is this a consideration? Consider the smooth stucco finish or require the smooth stucco finish?
Well, that
Or
would
in
all
this
de-
case, it's eliminated. I apologize, yeah.
The chimney, though, will probably still end up being plaster.
Yeah, which would be nice to go
It should be
smooth.
smooth, I think it would look great.
Okay, so smooth stucco for the chimney, correct?
Steel trowel. Steel trowel, right?
Steel trowel,
Only way to
Okay.
get it.
steel trowel,
To truly get.
chimney. Okay. And I'm assuming that the consider eliminating the shutters is eliminate the shutters, correct?
Eliminate.
I think they
Okay.
should be eliminated.
Eliminate the shutters. Next one would be to revise the front elevation to reflect the roof plan and east elevations. Comments, if the wall is needed at the front setback for the change in grade at the driveway, that it be a maximum 18-inch real stone wall. To use drought-tolerant plantings and to lower the plantings to transition from the street level to the upper portion of the front setback as opposed to the taller shrubs that are currently proposed. I should have done this at the very front. To refocus the architectural details to the more Craftsman style overall, I would say, at the front. Use the proposed siding throughout the project and restudy the location of the corner windows along the east elevation. Did I capture everything?
Maybe along with that last comment, just to relook at balancing the windows on each of the elevations, because
And rebalance the windows?
Do you mean the east and west elevation or all 4 elevations?
East and west mostly, because the other ones are pretty centered on everything.
And the swing of the entry door, is that something we want to include?
Peripheral preference.
I was going to,
That's
yeah,
just,
I just, since it doesn't change the architectural.
That's the way.
Yeah, no, that, I just wanted to bring it up in case he changes, at least we discussed
Exactly.
it, you know.
The east elevation has very limited visibility anyways, right, with that home next to it.
Mhm.
The west is really what we're going after as far as some sort of major...
Right, but I think it's more
Correction.
consistency of the style. I mean, you wouldn't have a corner window in it.
The Craftsman.
Yeah.
That's,
nice, no mullion corner window on the Crescent.
You could do this, right? Instead of doing that, you could do this.
Yeah, just shift it over a little bit.
And if we're gonna go with siding everywhere, we'll have a little bit of siding on the side.
Okay.
Is there any change now to that kitchen window? Because there was a discussion about removing the siding, but now it's all siding.
Well, we are saying that we're putting siding everywhere?
You're right, so they're removing the trim around it, so it's going to be
So it'll just become all
around.
siding.
Okay, so the trim and the sash underneath as shown would be removed, and then there would be siding and simple trim around the kitchen window.
Right, I would think, yeah. So we're on agreement to do siding then everywhere, is that what the comments reflect?
And do we want to also add a consideration that in certain locations, sort of shake siding be used? In addition, no, I'm seeing,
I would say, because then we'll have to see, because we don't know what they're
We don't
gonna
know, that's just a
just
thought
say-
I had in trying to introduce some variety.
a variety of textures.
Stucco and siding combination. I was pointing out that you could achieve the same thing with siding, but I don't want to put that out there. I think the architect could just figure out what direction he wants to go.
Okay, and if he comes back with, some different, some horizontal siding and some
Shingle siding.
siding, that would also be fine.
Be true to
So,
itself and the style. So
yeah,
that-
so he can have that option.
Okay, so I'll
Great.
put that, instead of use proposed siding throughout the project, I'll mention that use proposed siding throughout the project, or a combination of shingle and siding.
Right.
To be worked with staff then,
Yeah.
at the appropriate locations. Or consider. Okay, that said, everything?
think
I
that's
have and I would assume that this is an approve with conditions motion? Okay.
I'll move that we approve it with the conditions, just
Thank you, Board Member Palmer. Is there a second?
Second,
Board Member Eliano, roll call, Board Member Eliano?
yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Palmer?
yes.
Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Okay. That was a comment made by Board Member Insua
When he wraps it all up, so
to
We need to change the address from La Cañada.
to include this in the good book.
And
I
we'll
wanted
take
to-
that comment to staff, and we'll not necessarily include that in the client's conditions.
But I wanted to add
Thanks.
also that
Thank you.
I like the practice of the massing, sometimes changing material. I think that's a good practice. But I think in this project, it seems to be okay to deviate from that because of the fact that there's so many different planes. And so I appreciate you keeping an eye on that.
Okay.
Okay, the third project, 1520 Rama Vista Drive, and you're up again.
Last case on tonight's agenda will case number 1-PR 2009-075A. The project is located at 1520 Rima Vista Drive. The applicant is Bedros Jarkin. And again, the case planner is Geborg Nazarian, who left early today, so I'm presenting this on his behalf. I apologize if I might not be able to answer all of your questions. But the project you see before you would be the set of plans marked as new. The board last saw this project for first time submittal for final review on June 25th, 2009, which time the board voted 3-0 to return for redesign with comments because more than 90 days has transpired. The case is submitted as a brand new case, even though we have put up both sets of plans to show you what was previously reviewed and what is currently being proposed. The project consists of an approximately 820 square foot addition to the existing 2,670 square foot single story home, and to add an architectural front entrance piece, the front facade. They are also proposing a rear deck. And you'll notice here, and again, it's better in the site plan, I'll mark it here. So to add an addition single story to the front, there's a small addition to the eastern side, expand a little bit to the rear facade, and then as opposed to the previous proposal where they had one long deck along the rear, they are now proposing 2 decks that are broken up. Okay, and this is obviously in regards to staff to the board's comments previously. Property, it's approximately 18,000 square foot irregularly shaped lot, single family residential, and I'm going to go straight into the analysis portion. What you see here in terms of the site plan has not changed from what you saw back in June. Site plan remains the same. There's an attached 2-car garage. There's less grading. Obviously, overall, the 1-story living space addition is within the allowable floor area ratio. It's well placed, respecting the existing graded open space, and maintains a front setback. Moreover, the proposed deck has been redesigned to meet the board's comments, and staff believes that it fits better on the site, and the anticipated impacts have been minimized as it faces Melwood, and Melwood would be the street down below to the rear. Massing of the addition has not changed since the last submittal, and staff believes it is well placed. The deck's massing, however, has been reduced significantly by separating the deck into 2 sections and reducing the overall size. Moreover, the deck has been also lowered in elevation to reduce the overall height by 2.5 feet. These changes have been made to address the board's comments. And the addition is well designed to match and enhance the existing house while carrying the architectural treatment from east to west. The material used for the base of the deck is an appropriate approach, given that the stone material proposed blends in with the existing rocky hillside. The proposed railing is also appropriate for the style and matches the existing. The staff had a number of comments. If you'd like, I can read through those, but those have been pretty much addressed in this very brief staff report. Staff's recommendation is to approve the project as the addition is consistent with the existing house. And as the proposed meeting, the board has expressed acceptance of the addition but had concerns about the deck design as explained. But the current proposal has addressed these concerns.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for staff?
I wasn't able to determine the height of these. I don't like that. Really showing over
That would probably be.
Do we have our
Yes.
previous comments from the last case?
Yes.
Are they in here?
The previous comments, yes, they were in the staff report. Would you like me to go through that?
Oh, no, I could go through it myself,
No,
but
it's up to you.
is it on page 3?
It's actually on page, there it is, page 3. And there, if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to go through that.
Okay, so these numbers 1 through 6 is the previous conditions,
Correct.
and what staff is recommending now is at the bottom portion of page 3?
No.
No?
Actually, the board had 6 comments. One dealt with the design of the rail of the deck. Mm-hmm. And why don't I just briefly go through that, okay?
Because there's those comments and conditions at
yeah.
the bottom, and I'm wondering...
The comments and considerations at the bottom of the staff report, the 4 of those listed,
Yes.
those were previously made by the board on June 9th. And
Okay,
in
so
the
let's go
staff
through
report,
them.
there are no other comments or conditions that staff is suggesting at this point in time.
Okay.
So, based on the comments made by the board in June, okay, one was to design the rail of the deck to be more appropriate to the style of the house, and to use green color for the metal railing to create a tie between the house and the detached deck. What you see before you, yes, they have changed it. They're using the same railing in the front, and it's also green. So they've addressed that comment. Second comment was to use 2-piece barrel tile for the roof instead of an S-type tile. The applicant is proposing a 2-piece barrel tile. Third comment by the board last time was to provide additional window or other fenestration on the southeast elevation. Southeast elevation being this particular one, and you'll notice here the applicant has changed the window details to be a little bit more reflective and integral. One was to provide clarification as to the existing window materials and a window sample and cut sheet for the proposed windows. There was a question as to what's existing, what's proposed, what's going to remain, what's going to be changed. The applicant is coming back. All of the windows are going to be replaced in the new addition. everything will now be the fiberglass windows. Okay. The last condition was to restudy the proposed deck and provide the following information: details of the railing, finished material of the enclosed area below the deck, photographs of the existing walls, a contour map, and detailed section drawings. I believe those were in your packet, and I can go through that, and the architect is in the audience, so I'm sure he can answer those questions.
Remember the sheet?
A7, yeah, I can put that as well. And then this is the question that Board Member Simonian had. The next 4 items were actually just comments and considerations that the board had. So these comments and considerations are not ones being suggested by staff today, but they are just reflecting what the board had comments and considerations back in June. First one was to strongly recommend breaking up the deck and stepping it down in such a way that responds to the existing grade. So again, the deck that was previously one large deck has been broken up into 2 pieces and then has been lowered 2.5 feet. Second item was to consider designing the deck to follow the contours of the site and not using man-made shapes. Again, both decks are rectangular in shape and are not designed to follow the contours of the site. So unfortunately, that comment and that previous comment and consideration has not really been addressed. The third item was to consider using 2 different types of stone for the area under the deck. The applicant has provided 1 type of stone to enclose the area below the deck that matches the existing retaining walls. And the fourth comment and consideration was to consider scaling down the deck or proposing a smaller deck. Again, to address this comment and consideration, the applicant chose to come back with a deck that's been split up into 2 and having lowered the overall height of the deck.
Do we have pictures of the existing?
And
There's a picture from far away.
there's a picture from, oh,
I got a couple questions.
yes.
Do we have a well-done landscape plan?
It's not in your packet, and again, I'm sorry, we inherited this case. Then let me double check to see if there's a larger one. 1 second.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, since it's being brought back,
Yes.
we can basically comment on all parts of the project then.
Correct. You can reopen.
Okay.
All of it is open, and the last. This is the cross section and topo, somewhat of a topo detail that you were requesting. So let me grab that.
Here we go.
Let me just bring that over. And it looks like there is not a detailed landscape plan, but again, because this is an addition, it would not require a detailed landscape plan, according to our design review board standards. So if it was a brand new home, yes, they would be required to provide a landscape plan.
But how about in the front where are we doing anything with the extension of the decking area and stuff underneath it and all that other stuff?
Forgive me, which area are you referring to?
We're extending the existing deck area, correct? Here
Correct.
and here. Is there anything that's being done?
It looks like
This
they're
side.
just extending over retaining wall.
They're just kind of-
These are, yeah, there are existing retaining walls. They are just extending the deck over the existing
So-
retaining walls.
like this, they're extending over it?
Yeah, the sections are right here. So-
Right. Forgive me, I'm going to get out of the way.
Okay, and so they're extending and then
They're coming out right here.
this is existing, so
Mm-hmm.
perhaps this could be an opportunity for good landscaping and stuff. But anyway, okay.
Is this deck over here,
Yes.
past this line, or is the deck end right here?
No, this,
This edge of this deck is right here.
Yeah, and
these
the
are
existing,
existing
looks like the
retaining walls
This
right
goes
there.
with this goes with the contours. This is
Yeah,
cut
well,
back.
I see. So this is the first retaining wall,
That's this little one right
and
here.
then
Correct.
this one
The
is that
second one, and then this one
All
is
right.
back there.
And
So
so
the
then,
deck is coming out beyond, you see that dash line there?
that's the
That's the
deck.
deck.
yeah, so the deck is way out here in alignment. This retaining wall appears to be this one right here.
Right.
So it's in alignment
So
more
you
or
can't really
less.
plant anything underneath.
Well, Yeah, I mean, there's
burn, yeah.
just up to this wall, really, yeah.
And you don't even see that with,
So you're gonna, so where is this wall? That's a
the
new
new
wall.
one.
That's a new wall.
That's the
that's in
proposed
front,
wall.
that's where this dash line.
This photograph shows a good example of that wall right there is the perimeter, which is this wall back in here. So that wall right there is what we're looking at here, and then he's coming forward to 10 feet with this.
So this is existing, that's going to remain?
Stepped
Right.
up.
Yes,
It's just covering over it, like a
Correct.
roof over.
I see.
walls.
And so then all's going to be visible when we're done with it is
Is
this
this little wall here.
and then this wall.
correct, which is being proposed in one stone material.
And I remember last time, we really liked this natural
Yeah.
stone. It was so organic. And that was the main comment that was made, was try to go with more of an organic shape. And then it'll really blend in with that hillside.
Right.
Right.
Sort of like an Italian hillside, like off of Bellagio or something, you know, you just see the hillside, everything blends in.
So you'll notice here, actually, don't want to touch this because I know that the screen is really sensitive, but if you take a look at the screen, you'll notice the three successive retaining walls. And so that lower retaining wall will be visible, okay? And then they are extending above the existing retaining walls,
So
the new deck.
And the deck extends itself on the vertical plane pretty close to the lower retaining wall. So if you're
Correct.
looking at it, the decks are there, so this area right here. So
And actually, what you can do, you can,
Well, so this
That might be a
decking,
first.
if you look in the plane here, the decking.
you just need a touch.
Oh, I'm not that good.
So
You gotta be like
essentially,
Steve Madden.
so if this is the existing wall that's going to be removed,
That won't be
maintained,
removed.
not removed, but
That's
it's going to be
gonna stay.
maintained, then this portion is going to project,
Correct.
and then this portion is going to project.
Right. But you're also doing this, may I?
Please.
I think what
There you are.
I'm seeing too, though, that this is going to be, am I doing it right? There's going to be a whole wall right here.
There is going to be a wall.
I mean, this is a wall, and that's a wall. That's going to be the same plane as that. Pretty much. I mean,
Right close behind it. You'll notice here,
you get-
here's that existing retaining wall
The lower.
that's going to remain, and then they're going to put this wall, which is going to reinforce the deck up above, or be the foundational
That's
support.
1 inch equals to 10 feet, and those two walls are very close to one
They
another.
can't be more than 5 feet
Right, right.
closer.
very good tool. I love this.
You like that? And then, the best part about it,
You could just undo it? Oh, wow.
so if anyone else would like to,
Whether in red?
smartboard, it's a phenomenal tool.
Well, I'm clear.
Okay, any other questions?
So, and then the addition is here, right? There's a little round thing right here.
Correct,
And you're bringing this like that.
correct.
The ridge right there.
And then there's that one little piece back there and a little bit at the back, at the rear.
I have one card for the project. Mr. Bedros Aegean, if you could please come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Excuse me, I don't feel good, so forgive me for my voice. Bedros Darchian, 527 Tank Canyon Road, Duarte, California, 91010. May I approach? I think there are some stuff missing there.
Sure, why don't you come up? You want to come up, or?
No, actually, I can see, so my voice is... I had colored elevation for the revised deck and the new material board. They're not here. I
Yeah, we'll
have,
check on it, to see.
Yeah, he's saying that there's a new material
I
board.
have a
and color
material
elevation.
board and new elevation colored this size. See,
And again, I apologize because when the case planner went home, he said everything was here. And unfortunately,
Is that a copy of it?
no, basically,
Did it
if
look
I
like
may...
this?
Is that?
We have it in the packet.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, we have that in the
So-
packet.
So we'll look at it in the packet then.
Okay. I mean, I have this color one, if you want me to put it up.
Do you
It's not
mind?
the finished one without the retaining wall finish, but this is more accurate than,
Well, we have this, which is more,
yeah, I mean,
Okay, yes. Do you mind if I put that up?
it's up to
Okay.
you.
I apologize, it just,
It's okay. No,
unfortunately,
it's
when
not.
there's a last minute change like this.
And the shapes are not, yeah. I mean, all of it.
This is just a black and white.
Oh, is it?
It's the same as
Yeah, it's just a line, it's a black and white line drawing.
That's just some additional pages.
Let me just pin it underneath this. Okay, would you like to continue?
Again, after the first meeting, the design review meeting, I had many meetings with Ms. Stephanie and Mr. Geborg, to address all the comments. And I had a client that, he's putting a lot of money. He want a larger, backyard. And as you know, probably it's not an issue. Those property, they worth millions of dollars, and people want to, explore the potential or having a backyard. And the big problem there is golfers. I mean, if you go to the backyard, there is thousands of holes. So this deck will give them some hardscape, in the back with some, maybe lawn and landscaping area too. So the idea was he wanted a large deck, and the compromise was that about 90 feet long deck was originally, or maybe close to 100. So we split that to two, and after a meeting or so again, we decided that's not good enough. We need to reduce the mass over two. So I convinced my client that to drop the height, which is the reason we dropped it for 2.5 feet, not more than that. Then you don't need to provide a railing. 30-inch drop, you don't need to provide railing. So to avoid the railing in the middle of the old deck and the new deck. It's the material too. Again, if you see there, I mean, we try to work on the material to have the closest possible material to the existing retaining wall. And I had a sampling board depict, the material, but this is just, I did a cutout and I pasted it and I did the prints on it. Staff recommend approval, and I hope you go with their recommendation and approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
No, we're just trying to get a sense
Get a sense for it? Okay.
where we're at.
No questions?
I had a question. Were there any schemes where, because I know what you're trying to do, I really understand. I'm just trying to be sensitive to the site. I mean, you're leaving a spot here and you're leaving that, so you're doing kind of this thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, have you considered taking this planter wall here, okay, and just, instead of making the deck this wide, just use this line. So it's an existing
Sorry,
line.
may I come close then?
It's an existing line already. Well, here. I mean, we can see it right here. Yeah, when I get to draw. If you consider using just this wall here, it's very hard. Yeah, I think I need to be on this side. You consider just using this, very hard to draw on it, but right here, the second wall right here, and do the deck only in here. In other words, this will be,
That's only going to give me 6 feet maximum.
but you have it throughout the whole length of the site. And then you're still creating a little step here, and maybe this could be battered. Instead of being vertical, maybe slightly battered. Because right now there's already a natural shape It's not natural because it's man-made, actually, but it's already there, that's what I mean. Why not use,
In the beginning, we were trying to follow those lines, but see, the thing, it was at the first meeting to provide more area for landscaping.
I understand, but it's not working in terms of how it works with the site.
But then if I put the wall there, we're gonna have a straight wall about 12 feet high.
Well, I was saying, you may want to, this has to be removed. You have to build something new there. And I think I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to just put piles and just leave everything there.
Yes.
Kind of passing over all that stuff. Okay. I
Okay.
just thought I'd ask you that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, Paul?
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No, for that.
Okay, thank you. There's no one else here, so we'll close it and we'll start. So I guess get us started.
I think the changes to the additions are acceptable. I would suggest, though, that where you have the entrance and this little area in here, your pictures show some small landscaping areas. I think those need to be enhanced. Are you taking out the landscaping that's in here?
Just
Oh, yeah.
nod or yes or no.
Well, one of this drawing shows no landscaping. I think we need to have some landscaping in this courtyard area, whether it's in here or in here, but just the plain paving.
So we'll make that as one of them.
I think we need to add some. As far as the deck area goes, in looking at the pictures, I think that right now it recesses itself back as the cliff goes up, and I think it looks fine. But to bring that deck out over the top, they're going to be looming over the street, and it's going to create, with that little retaining wall and the one right behind it, an 11-foot wall, and I cannot support that the way it's shown. That's my only comment.
Thank you.
Well, you want to see this?
Just quick a second. I don't know if you want me to go next.
Yeah. Would you like to go next?
I mean, what a terrific location, what a terrific opportunity, what a terrific house. And I just see the architecture. I know it's an addition, but it's an addition that has the opportunity, without spending more money than you're gonna spend, I think it has the opportunity to be really special. Especially when you take the location, the home, and you think about all those things together. Thank you. I don't see the plans, and again, it's not about great quality drawings. It's about good work. I don't see really well executed design that when you see it and you look at this home and the location, you think, goodness, that house is improved with this addition. They want to do things addition-wise, but I think it can be done so much better. I mean, okay, so you have this turret entry, and you can see that it's a meaningful entry, but I don't see it sing or something special. Okay, you got the turret, but is there architectural elements in this turret that combines itself maybe with the entrance here or with this stepping sawtooth? You know, you got the turret, but how does this turret relate to any other part of the house? You know, these little windows here, okay, they're little windows, but imagine if you put underneath here a little sawtooth that may be matching here. Oh, okay, and then little sticking out. I think it would be more meaningful. This addition, which goes from this small addition, which you see in the photograph, and adds significant square footage to the house, comes really significantly forward on the property. It comes way forward to the front streetscape. So the street, the planter and the property line walls and stuff are about this close now. Well, all we have is this big addition with these little square windows. I don't know if these square windows exist in the other house, but not unlike that other house. What if they pushed this part of the house up a little forward
and then you put another gable end over here, just a little recess, so that you break up this whole element here, so that you start seeing better architecture refining itself. I think that this is a good start, but I think it can be better refined. As you indicated, how does the landscaping work with these little buttresses here? What about alongside the house? I just see that it's a design 30% finished. I would prefer seeing it better executed, showing how potential. We have landscaping here right now. What do we have now to replace that? What do we have here? It's just a sea of a pebble stone, or locking stone. This now has become a driveway, a parking area. The cars come up in here, and they maybe are allowed to do that, maybe they're not, but how does the house relate to its site with its landscaping? You can see examples of it here. There's more execution, more development of the architecture that you're trying to bring in, I think is important. And I think the homeowners will be benefiting from it. It's a terrific house. How often have you gone to a house and you go, oh, that was interesting, why did they do that? This location is just stunning. And I, too, couldn't support any further extension, maybe a little bit of a cantilever, maybe a little further, maybe 3 feet or so, but no more extension down of the walls, because you can see it in the photographs. You just drive up that street, and it's going to be over the street. I could support an extension of the balconies, but not bringing it down for more retaining wall. I think less retaining wall would be key here. So I think it's a start. I think that the landscaping should be part of the effort, especially in the addition. Okay, so now we have the stone work here, but in this we now have more stone work. More paving. Ooh, I think we need less paving in this house. So architecture better developed. How does it relate to opportunities for landscaping? I think is key here. I think this is a classic, key example of what we don't want. And the back deck, I don't think I could ever support increasing it with more retaining walls, more vertical retaining walls, even if you put a lot of different stone work there. I don't think, in its location, when you see the roadway, it's just going to not ever work, in my opinion. Thank you.
Art? To go next.
Well, this is one of those cases where you look at it once, you look at it twice, 3, 4, and you almost have to look at it a half a dozen times. And it takes 5 of us to really understand the drawings and the site and the complexity of what we have here. It's more of a architectural problem as opposed to just an addition and a deck. What you have is you have a very unique building that has articulation at every corner. So every corner you look, it has some sort of an interesting architectural feature. And the problem is compacted by the fact that it's been renovated or added onto with different types of windows and different material, well, not different materials, but different types of windows and so forth over time. And then you have this sheer drop-off in the back with these very interesting retaining walls, and you try to combine all that with some sort of a cohesive design to put it all together, and that just a very difficult and unique opportunity for an architect. And so I really sympathize with what you've gone through, because I remember you came last time, and I can only imagine what you've been going through to try to make this thing work, to make this puzzle work. Of all the drawings that's presented, to me, this picture is most telling example of what we have here. Everything else is two-dimensional, and everything else is so deceptive in a way. And that's not because of the way you've drawn it. It's just deceptive in nature as far as how complex the site is. And so when I look at this color photograph, I see natural stone that is the same natural color as the hillside. So it's the same hue, same color, same type. And so the way the existing retaining walls pop out of the ground, they're naturally camouflaged. And so they become anchored in and nestled into the site, which is really important. And so I think any type of retaining wall, that is exactly the stone you use. That is it. So you got to find that stone and you got to try to mimic it, or you got to use what's existing there, but you got to try to use it because it's working perfectly. Now, in concept, the biggest issue that the board is having is the fact that you're cantilevering this deck over here, and there's this cantilever of 2'6". And it seems like it's more than that, but that's really what you're talking about. I think if you just blow up this section, you're hiding the walls behind it, and you're cantilevering this 2'6" area. The existing wall that's there, and what's being shown in the picture, is a massive wall. So there is a massive wall there that exists. So the trick is going to be to try to follow the natural contour of that wall and integrate it as much as you can and bring it up. Now, I think as a way to step back and to analyze this in a different perspective, what if the addition that you're adding onto these bedrooms occurred in this area, but occur at a lower level, perhaps? So now what you're doing is you're digging into this hillside and you're putting a space in this area, and now you have another deck that opens off of it. So you have a two-level deck, maybe. One at the existing level, one at a lower level. That's another way for you to consider it. Because I think what the board is having a really hard time with is having this thing jet out, protrude out, especially with the street underneath it. So what could be a very logical approach is to try to carve some space into that hillside, and you carve into it and you minimize the mass of that wall. Again, that takes you a step back, and now you have to look at whether those bedrooms will make sense in the front, or whether it makes sense to move some other program of the building in the rear and reposition some of the existing living spaces into bedrooms in the front. Don't know. But the rectilinear approach that you've taken of pushing the deck out is, I think, what's most troubling to the board. So you have to keep more of an organic shape, and that shape needs to follow exactly how those walls are, and perhaps you keep the lower one and you maximize the second one, and then you have a double terraced situation. That might be something that could be successful, I'm not sure. But it's certainly a challenging situation that you're in.
Thank you.
I think the comments I have are pretty much the same as the ones that have already been made, so I probably don't want to dwell too much on that. I do agree the decks are problematic still. I think I can't support the project because of those decks. I have no issues with the square footage you're adding. I think it's very reasonable what you're doing on the plan. I do agree with some of the aesthetic suggestions that Mr. Inswa made with that piece that you're adding on the facing the street. I think you need to break that up because that's what you see from Misty Isle when you come up. That's the main piece. The round piece, that could even get a little bit higher, just to get a little bit more differentiation in the elements. So I don't have an issue with those pieces. I think you do have to refine them. And I think the front yard, the motor court that you have is huge. I mean, there's no soft areas there. It's all just hardscape. And most of it, you don't really need all that space to make your turn. I think what happens, I guess, is that's what's used to park cars. And if that's the way you want to use the property, the owner wants you, I suppose it's okay, but it doesn't really add to the front of the house because it's all hardscape. As far as the rear is concerned, personally, I think the decks are going to be a problem. I think unless you could come up with a more organic way to do it, I can't support it. I just think that those decks are just going to be too massive, at least from the street below. And you're gaining some space, but I think you're destroying your site. I think it's quite nice the way it is right now with these sort of terraced walls at the other upper end of the site. And I think if you can do some subtle changes to it and make it look organic, make it look make it so that it complements what's there, great. Otherwise, I would abandon the idea of the decks. I think the house is quite wonderful as it is. The site itself is wonderful as it is. You make a few of these little refinements that we've suggested, I think you'll have a great project.
Thank you.
Can I just a little thing? My comments are only to help facilitate a successful project as fast as possible. But when I look at the drawings and read what I'm reading, there's some confusing elements, especially with the doors and the windows. But in the windows, the window schedule calls for sliders, but when you look at the drawings, they appear to be casement-type windows. One of the things I think you should have in your sample board is the manufacturers of the door and windows to confirm the design and the cut sheets, so you see what it looks like. Because they appear to be drawn as some casements, especially when you look at the elevation number, or the first page of elevation, no number, but like, for example, this appears to be a casement-type window, but they're shown as sliders. So this appears to be fixed and then casement on either side. That's going to be really helpful for nailing down the design and the window types. Also, I would suggest also doing a submittal of the railings. You know, do we know what the railing? I know that the railings we have the ones in the back. The ones in the back with the front are doing.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so it's just an exact match. Okay. 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 Thanks.
Thank you. I think, Tricia, you brought a good point up that I think we need a clean site plan that shows sort of the finished material of each area. Because I was trying to look at that one up there, and there's a lot of lines that are sort of obscure on what they're actually showing. I think there are a little more planning areas that he's proposing beyond the sort of the perspective, because the perspective just has a plane that shows all, and I don't think that's the case, but still, we need a clean site plan that shows all of that. I think that you also brought up a good point that, maybe it can be taken a little further and improved upon on the design of it. Just the comments that Mr. Insua made about improving the design of it with the detailing that he was recommending. The deck in the back, I understand what you were trying to do in breaking it up per our suggestion, as well as the idea of dropping it only 24 to 30 inches because it doesn't require an extra guardrail on the side of it. Those make logical senses, but they don't work on the site, on the back part of it. By actually breaking it up and creating sort of these symmetrical little porches almost that are coming off of there, you're almost creating a worse condition than the first one where it was sort of a continuous piece, because now you're creating vertical lines and splitting that retaining wall up and that whole, and using different materials and switching out with different shadow lines, and then the cantilever is going to give it a deep shadow line again, creating more of a differentiation in the hillside. I think the only way it's going to work is, and it's been suggested by others, is that it gets dropped down to an existing retaining wall line and then sort of naturally follow that line that's already there. Because otherwise, it's going to create the same thing. You're going to create these vertical lines that are just going to kill that sort of very nice retaining walls that are there on that hill. And I think beyond that, and we've all sort of given good suggestions on how to improve it, if at all, to do those retaining walls. So, should we read back the comments?
Yeah, I'll be happy to read back some of the comments, and there were a few of them. So I think Vilya may have some, and I have some. We have, as far as the comments on the building addition, break up the addition at the east elevation, and better integrate the rotunda into the overall design. An option to make it taller, maybe a bit larger, so that it feels part of the overall project and not just tacked on at the front. We have provide door and window cut sheets, provide casement windows rather than sliding windows. I think we already have the cut sheets for the railings, so we can include that as a condition just so that we have it all in a package. We have landscaping needs to be well done all around the house. I don't know if I heard it stated, but perhaps you're suggesting that a landscape architect should provide a landscape plan for the project. The comments sounded like it warrants a plan by a landscape architect.
Including hardscape.
I don't know if we're on single-family residence.
We're not required, but the board has the option of requesting one. I mean, and I had the same thing where enhance the landscape planners in the front courtyard area by the front entryway and possibly restudy the size of the motor court, the layout.
It's an integral part of the whole thing.
Yeah, just as an aside, our code only requires for this a submittal a landscape plan for multifamily projects. However, the board can require any presentation submittals for staff to review if it's approved with conditions, or for you to see. In any case, aside from this project, additional conditions. So that's what we have primarily regarding the addition. Hopefully, we didn't miss anything, and you'll let us know if we did. Regarding the deck, we've heard two comments loud and clear. One is that there's really, what we're hearing is that there's no support for the deck to cantilever or capture additional space to essentially grow out of the hill. We do hear support for deck if it can incorporate the existing retaining walls and potentially use those retaining walls and even extend them higher, is what we're hearing. That it sounds like that will be a challenge to construct, because we're also hearing that precisely the same material that's existing should be used to extend those walls, which will likely be a challenge. So I guess I want to put the question, because we've heard very little support for the deck, but some suggestions that if a deck is really created within those existing retaining walls, that may be okay.
We have to see it, though.
Yeah, we're not.
Right.
We're just reading back what we've heard, because no matter how you vote, we will really like to have some specific record of this conversation as we continue to work with the applicant. In any case,
I made some comments about, and Mr. Yu made some comments as well, in that these decks could be integrated better into the site by using the existing retaining walls, either lowering the deck to the middle retaining wall height, or one way or another incorporating some living space in the rear yard that digs into the yard, and so there's a natural open space beyond it. I also made the comment about the stone having to match exactly what's there, and I don't mean by that 100% match, but what I see is that the applicant has gone to a brochure, has gone to some supplier, and has gone some sort of a veneer, and it's the different type of a look. I think if you just take a picture of what's there and then look for it, you'll probably find either some natural material or some sort of a veneer, but it's probably going to be natural, and it's probably going to take an expert mason that's going to spend some time there and put together that wall the old-fashioned way. So there's going to be some sort of a block wall behind it, and this is going to have a really thick sort of a natural stone veneer. And that's the exercise you have to go through in order to be able to accomplish the goal, which is to squeeze a deck into this very problematic, visual, and challenging area. And so it's one of those decisions that you and the client have to make if they want to go down that route. So yes, I would support it if it is integrated and becomes part of the existing walls.
Do we have a majority on that point?
Yes.
They might also not have as large an expansive deck. Does it have to be two long pieces? Maybe it's just a portion of the hillside, and where one portion of it becomes a deck, the rest of that wall is recessed back, and that creates a little variation.
Right. I also think if they're going to go in that direction, if they're going to try to study maybe taking one of those wall lines and extending it up, they have to study 3D. The drawings that we have right now, I don't think anybody has any idea what this thing is going to exactly look like because there's not enough study. It's not a three-dimensional study. You can see the impact, but really, the two-dimensional drawings don't do it. You can't. And even those sections, those limited sections, they're fine. That's how you try to visualize what would happen. But you got to do a three-dimensional study of this and be very convincing. My feeling is that it's going to be extremely challenging to make this work. And I'm not gonna commit that because if you go in that direction, I'm going to be here and I'm going to support it. I have to really see it. But I just think it's going to be an extreme challenge to make this thing work.
And if they do choose to do so, that I would request that we have the heights listed rather than just overall heights.
Right.
The heights of the individual retaining
Individual
walls?
heights, we need all the dimensions.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go as far, if this is really that important, I would go as far as doing a side model.
Yeah.
A side model, bring it here, but you have to really contour everything. You have to contour the existing walls, that whole chunk of land with, it may not have to show the whole house. Maybe you can get the house
Just the backyard.
in just the backyard and do a little footprint of the house with maybe just the elevations that are sort of shown so you can look at it from underneath. I mean, if it's really that important, that's where I would go, because even if this were approved today and it gets built, I'm not sure that even the owner will be happy with it, because nobody knows what it's exactly going to look like. We just have an idea of the impact that it will create, but all the details are not worked out. We don't know what these, all these 90-degree corners that are being created, what is it really going to look like from this side and from that side? All we're seeing is a two-dimensional drawing that shows that there's going to be stone coming down. But you really don't understand what's happening here, and there, and there. I mean, those are going to be views that you're going to get.
Well, especially since it's like a 6-inch slab with like 2 feet
Yeah,
extension.
I mean, if I were to judge by the drawings, I would say it's not going to be very nice looking. What we're seeing.
Some other thoughts might be you might be able to use specific pavers that step back as you're moving up, and it's tapered, and landscaping actually grows out of them. And so you could
You
have...
have those stepping blocks that you could plant. I mean,
Correct.
These walls may want to be tapered. They don't want
Right,
to
so
be
they're
straight
leaning
up.
back, that's right. And then you have some other landscaping on the top that drapes down. And so now what you've done is actually created more of a lush environment. So those are the radical steps.
I mean, that's a good, because you could actually, if you go in the direction where you're taking this, one of the retaining walls as a line of point of reference, say you decide that you want to use this second wall. Say you remove that wall, you have something tapered there, you could use that type of block, the ones that are sort of overlapping, they have planting pockets. You could actually plant that whole hillside with some kind of, drought-resistant planting that could actually cover some of that.
I'm trying to, because there's a lot, it's an addition, but when you look at, trying to find an order, where am I? Okay, so this is a new roof, correct?
Correct.
But it's only a covered roof, it's not habitable space? So I'm seeing where it's at right here. So we're going to add, so this is non-habitable?
But it's part of the lot coverage, because there's a roof.
That is correct.
It's part of lot coverage.
Part of lot coverage.
And I'm trying to see it in the elevation. Going to be the brightest guy around, but it's this thing right here. It's coming out there. trying to figure it out in the picture where they're doing that and in that direction with it. Okay. There's no elevation.
No, because that has a door.
Yeah, so this is this new roof area right in here. This is this elevation. This is this new roof area right here. All this gets it's weird because there's a lot of windows and doors here that look like they're being redone in the photograph to simplify it. But this area here, that dashed right there, is all roof. Now I know we don't see it in design review. You should only look at the things that are visible from the street, if you will. But this element right here, and I know I've drawn it, but that element right there is all new. You don't see it from the street, but I think it's indicative of the need for better execution. So, you can just see it's just simple lines, and simple lines, I think, want more detailing, more emphasis. What are you doing? What's going on here? I know that the previous home I think we did a great job of looking at the siding and all that other stuff. This needs a little bit more. It's not to not approve it, but to get better language across, better architectural language coming across to understanding exactly what's it going to look like, as Mr. Earl was saying. What's going to look like when you're finished with this exercise in all these little key areas.
Okay, should we add that to,
So do we just make a motion for return for redesign at this point?
It's a brand new submittal, I guess.
It is a brand new submittal, so the board has the option of returning for redesign.
And we've already gone over the
If I could read back the condition on the deck, because that was a little bit more complicated than usual. Providing a deck at this location is a challenge and potentially not possible. The proposal may be able to provide a deck that extends the existing retaining walls, lowering the deck into the middle of the retaining wall may also be a potential solution. Any additional stone will need to be authentic and match the existing stone as closely as possible. Perhaps a block wall with a thick veneer or a real stone that a mason would install. Consider reducing the size of the deck, and there's a potential for relocating the addition to the rear, building it at a lower elevation to be able to carve out a deck from the hillside. And another thought that the board put forth was to potentially use a material, a block that might incorporate landscaping.
That's tapered.
That's tapered, okay.
Backwards,
A
forward.
tapered material, okay. Any deck should be studied three-dimensionally. A site model is preferred. Heights of all walls must be identified. And that last comment by Board Member Insoo, I'm a little confused by, because I was under the impression that the roofed area is shown on the south elevation, and I thought there was a gesture towards the east elevation, or the west elevation, rather. So I'm now confused where I didn't think I was confused
It's
before.
right here, and this is north, so it would be on the northwest.
Okay, that location is what you're talking about. I'm looking at
I
a...
don't see it from the street, so there's a point, but I think that the lack of
I'm looking at a site plan that's not calling that out as clearly, so I think I get that now.
I mean, and
It's tucked by the pool.
we don't see it from the street, but you got a great language of this existing house. It's a wonderfully built in the 20s Spanish revival, Spanish what you want home. And there's a couple things that are being changed. Okay, we're adding this covered patio area, which may be seen from the street, probably not because of the angle. And then we got this patio here. So those are extensions to the home. So we got a patio that's new, and another patio, covered patio that's new. It's not well defined, so you got to work to find it. Okay, so now, and here it is right here. So here is the roof line of this new covered patio.
Yeah, I see that now. Thanks
Okay.
for clarifying.
And when, okay, so now we see it. Then we got these spindly little legs holding this relatively large structure, 15 feet. It's screaming for design me. It's telling you, do something here to me. You know, it's
Okay, so if I were to put those, if I were to craft those words into a potential condition,
I'm saying is that the architecture, the addition in the architecture needs to be better detailed, better evolved, to be consistent with the architecture. And I see it here, and you see it here. You see it. This is the addition that's covering it, and all we got is these little sticks that's covered in what? Plaster, stucco. It wants to be better designed.
okay, so if we include a condition, redesign all covered patio areas to better integrate into the house, and especially to reconsider the size and shape of the columns supporting those covered areas.
I would say that's obviously more direct, but I would say if anything that's being designed should be designed and evolved further.
And we'll put that as an overarching comment on top of all of the specific comments.
There's little things that look how this original house took this roof line. Oops, I did it. Took this roof line and broke it by that little detail right there. There's something there. Look how this roof jots under this roof. It's those little things that, especially in these homes that are relatively simple, are those key features that deserve to be better executed, and they'll help the overall project. I mean, it's funny because when I was looking at the architecture, when I look at that elevation, I'm going, now, what is, and it's not about good quality drawings. You can have bad drawings and do good work. But I'm looking at this addition on, or this elevation on A5, and you'd be hard pressed to know that that was the canopy that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that is the canopy that we're talking about here. So anyway, and it's only to be better, successful.
Okay, so we have those in there then. Okay.
With that said,
Motion.
anything else? Motion?
I make a motion to return for redesign.
I have a motion made by Board Member Simonian, second.
Second.
By Board Member Insua. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
Chairman Yu?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. And that brings us to the minutes. So, these would be the minutes from January the 21st, and all board members were present.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Board Member Palmer, is there a second?
Second, right here.
Board Member Aliano? Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
Chairman Yu?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. And actually, we do have one staff announcement by Stephanie. So I'll turn it over.
As you may remember, we, the staff of planning staff and staff of many other departments, presented on January 26th a report to City Council on green building. Council gave us very strong direction to create a green building advisory committee or task force, which we're composing now. If you would like to be included on the task force, please make sure to let me know. And probably we could only have a maximum of 2 board members from each board. So I don't know if more than 2 would like to be involved. It may be a matter you want us to put on the agenda to select a subcommittee or something that we could do otherwise. I was planning on contacting you directly, or if you would like to contact me, we can figure out who would like to be on the board. On this, it's not a board, it's just a task force. We expect that we'll be meeting 2 or 3 times to review the scope of the policy that will be recommended to Council. Council did give very strong direction, but wanted a policy and technical advisory group to help them with more specific recommendations. So why don't I see a lot of nods and a lot of interest, so I'll contact you all and see if that may be a matter that has to come back on an agenda. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and that brings us back to the item that we skipped at the very beginning, which would be the election of the new chairperson. Now that all 5 of you are present, so
Have to talk about we haven't talked about who to nominate.
Yeah.
So how should we do?
Can we put this up to another meeting, or does it have to be today?
if the board would like to
Or should we just huddle
continue it,
for a few minutes?
would you like to take a 1 or 2 minute recess?
We could do that.
Just because since all of you are here,
Okay, that sounds fine.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute recess and then come back.
5-minute recess?
Yeah.
All right, 5-minute recess it is.
Go.
Has
Okay, here
convened.
we are back on,
Okay, we're back.
and this is in regards to the election of the chairperson.
So-
Do I have any, sorry.
Go ahead, no,
Do
go
I
ahead.
have any nominations?
I move to nominate Mr. Insua as our next chairman.
I would second that.
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Oh, there we go.
All right. That was a nomination for board member Insua and a second. So roll call, board member Aliano,
Yes.
board member Insua,
Okay.
board member Palmer,
Okay, yes.
board member Simonian,
Yes.
and Chairman Yu.
Yes.
The motion passes.
He's off the hook.
As our congratulations, board member Insua.
you.
And I would definitely like to sincerely thank Chairperson Yu for his wonderful year of service as
Thank you.
chairperson for
I can't believe it's
DRB1.
been a year. It's very smooth.
No, it went
It has
very,
been.
very fast. Thank you.
Went,
Good
went
job.
by quickly, huh?
So sincerely thank you. And with that said, would there be a motion to adjourn at 7:30?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
If I could just take a position.